Okay, well, 7 o'clock, let's call the meeting to order. And the first thing on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Is there anything emergent we have to add?
No, sir.
Okay. Somebody like to move the agenda as presented? Jim? Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And moving on to accounts payable for February 14th. Point to James.
For our information.
Does anybody have any questions? Kathy?
I just had one, check number, can't see it, 85815, Tenequip, big orange industrial degreaser.
Yep.
That
We
must
buy
have
that.
been an awfully big barrel,
They do buy it in big barrels.
do they?
Mm-hmm. Because that's what they put down the sanitary sewer system to degrease the pipes. It's not hand cleaner. It probably will work for that too, but.
Okay, cause I was thinking big orange like you buy
Yep.
a Canadian Tire, yeah.
Yep, but this is
Yeah.
bigger.
Okay.
I thought that was just a year's supply for all the shops or something. Didn't realize it went down pipes.
Yeah, they use it for degreasing sanitary lines.
Okay.
Right, Evan? Oh yeah, you're landfill now, okay, shouldn't I? Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none? I snuck all the big ones by, I guess. All right, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, moving on to number 2, delegations. We have MLA Michaela Frey here with us this evening. With a little
Hope
red
you don't
light.
mind if I remove my mask while I'm speaking.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, would you like me to continue, or did you want to speak first?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
So I just wanted to say thank you all for having me today. For the benefit of the record and for anyone who doesn't know, I'm Michaela Frey. I'm the MLA for Brooks Medicine Hat. Every quarter, usually, I try to get out and do meetings with town councils around the province or around the constituency to make sure that we have some open lines of communication. Also, we have an ability to talk about what's going on kind of in the constituency. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Today I'm especially excited because I can be on the record and make sure that it'll be more of a public meeting so that everyone can see what's going on as well. I think it's super important for transparency that we have these meetings. So thank you very much for having me today. I just wanted to start off by thanking you for all that you've done for the past 2 years. I can't imagine that things have been easy. There's been a lot downloaded onto municipalities as far as decisions. We've seen our government's decisions, especially around COVID, impacting you and you having to kind of go with whatever we say. So it's been, I'm sure that's been very difficult, especially when there's times where you don't necessarily agree. So I am here today because I want to make sure that I can answer questions that you have in other meetings. I've spoken with Cypress County. I've spoken with Newell County already. I'm speaking with the EID right away. As well as the town of the city of Brooks, and I just spoke with Suffield. That was a wonderful visit that I had with the new base commander, and speaking with the city of Medicine Hat very shortly. So I just think it's important to keep these lines of communication open and make sure that we're continuing to talk about the issues that matter to people in Redcliff as well. Certainly I get a lot of correspondence to my office, as I'm sure you all get a lot of correspondence to you as well. But I think it's uniquely important for us as elected officials to be able to have this dialogue as well. So I don't really have a lot to say. I was more hoping that I could hear from you. But this is your meeting, Mr. Mayor. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, I'd be happy to answer them. I don't really know what the usual structure of this is. But yeah, I guess I'll just leave it to you then.
Okay. Well, I guess I didn't know exactly what this was going to be. Sometimes when we have people in the delegations, they're here to talk to us for 10 minutes or so to explain it all.
I think brevity is a gift, and sometimes I try to be as brief as I can.
Okay. Well, I guess one of the concerns we would have, and I don't know where it is, it's involving the province's thoughts on transitioning from RCMP to the provincial policing system. And I know we have sent, and I'm sure you're aware that we have sent letters of not in favor of that to Edmonton. And then yourself and Mr. Madu had come down that one evening there looking for information. I don't know what you all gleaned from that evening, but then we were invited to go to listen to the minister's people, but they made it very clear at the start that they were there to give us information only. They were not able to answer any questions of any political nature at all, and to please not shoot the messenger. So we sat through the morning and we listened, but there was just no real place there to ask any questions at all. It was purely an information only. I do know that you, and I believe you were sitting on the committee with Mr. Barnes when they went through, and it was called the Fair Trade.
I wasn't.
You weren't?
No.
Sorry? Okay.
No. The Fair Deal panel, that was MLA
And that's
Rosen.
where this sprang from, right? Right. And I believe even when that Fair Deal committee came to Medicine Hat, there was maybe about 60 people that actually attended that. And I think at that time, the most conversation, of course, was, well, we shouldn't be sending our equalization money to Ottawa, we should be keeping it ourselves. So that was a totally, I think that whole tour around Alberta was more or less to gain some support for not agreeing with the federal government. And now here we are with this thing, and I think we as a council have disagreed with the province's idea of bringing this forward. And I know many other communities have disagreed with this and wrote letters. So I'm wondering, where is this in the provincial?
Great question. So I've been pretty clear with constituents when they've come to me about this. In fact, there was one day I was sitting in my office and I had 3 people consecutively come in back to back. Didn't have appointments, nothing, just walked in just to say, hey, I don't support this decision. So for me, this is, I'm not taking a stance for or against it because I think it's my job to listen. At one point, I was quite passionate about an idea of an alternative model of policing just because I'd like to see more officers in rural Alberta. That's not to disparage any of the wonderful people at the RCMP. I mean, we have one with us today. They're doing an incredible job. We have, I know in Newell County specifically, we have Newell Safe Communities who's doing an incredible job connecting with the community, and they're doing a really good job to make sure that people are feeling safe in their homes. So this isn't about officers. It's not about, it's about resourcing mostly. And so for me, that was the kind of the lens that I was coming from. But at this point, my opinion has been changed quite substantially. I think that whatever we do, we need to make sure that we have Albertans on side. And at this point, we're talking about switching to an Alberta provincial police. I think that the jury's still out on that, and we need to continue to do more cost. It needs to be more costed, and we also need to continue to listen to people because I just don't really know that Albertans are quite ready for that transition just yet. That's what I've been hearing from Albertans at least. And I mean, I'm hearing from municipalities such as yourself that also are saying the same thing. So for me, I wouldn't want to be completely offside of my constituents, and I think that's a pretty poor place to be in as an elected official. I think any of us can understand that. But my job is to make sure that I'm communicating their needs to Edmonton, not Edmonton's needs to them. So I want to continue to listen on that. Unless I see compelling evidence to the contrary, I don't really know how much I'll be moved, but I do think it's a very different issue for people who live in more remote areas of the province than those who live in cities and towns. For example, the people that I hear more out in the country, they're more inclined to support an alternative model of policing. Those who live in cities and towns who are serviced by the RCMP, who are 5-10 minutes away, they have a much different opinion. So I think that at the end of the day, we need to take into consideration that there's very different views on this, both rural and urban especially. And we need to find a solution that works for everyone. So for me, like I said, the jury's still out on this. I'm more of in a listening mode on this as it is right now. But as far as the Fair Deal panel is concerned, they did recommend to move forward on an Alberta Provincial Police Force. I believe that was in their report. That report came after consultation from thousands of people from across the province. I think the Medicine Hat meeting had about 300 people at it, actually. It was very, very well attended. I know when I showed up, I couldn't even find a spot to sit down, and it was in the Cypress Center. So we all know what the capacity of the Cypress Center is. It was pretty impressive. But you're right. I think that issue only came up about once or twice, but for most part, I heard about Alberta, the pension plan, as well as equalization payments. So I think that this is an issue that's important to a lot of people, but I'm not quite sure that this solution matches what they're trying to achieve. So at the end of the day, I'll go with what my constituents want me to do, and I'll just keep listening.
Okay. Well, I guess, like I say, and now that they have taken Calgary and Edmonton and anybody with a police force already out of the loop, that starts to bring the numbers down a whole bunch. Like you're taking almost 2.5 to 3 million people out of the equation, right? So you were saying there are rural areas wanting a provincial police, because I actually haven't heard from anybody that says they want it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I hear more from people on an individual basis than I do en masse. So I can't speak for organizations, but I can speak for regular people who are just coming into my office and saying things. But I do notice a major difference when I'm talking to somebody who is living far off the grid versus somebody who lives within town. So, and I do believe that that decision does need to be made by people who are most affected by that. So I know the Premier has lobbed the idea. I don't know if he's made any formal commitments to it, but if there was a referendum on this, that it would be with rural Alberta to make sure that they have the most say in who represents them and who is policing their communities. So, but ultimately, and overwhelmingly, like I want to reiterate this again and again, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Like people, it's not about the RCMP as an institution. It's not about the individual police officers who are serving our communities. It's certainly not about the services that they provide. We have incredible people working in our communities, and I really do appreciate them. I mean, they're going through hell right now, and they're working very hard around the clock. So it's not about the people themselves. It's more about the issue of I think resourcing and the lack of response. I think in rural areas, which isn't the individual officer's fault at all. That problem falls on quite honestly the Prime Minister, who's failing to give enough officers to Alberta. Because at the end of the day, the province can't direct how many RCMP officers are in each area. That comes from the federal government.
Okay. Go ahead.
I know as elected officials, it's the right thing to say that we are listening to our constituents, and I hope it's not just a fuzzy thought that you're putting out there. And I don't get that vibe from you at all. I just hope the rest of your colleagues follow suit, and also Mr. Kenny as well. But also on the topic of policing, and I'm not sure if this has been solved yet. To my knowledge, I don't think it has been. Do we know yet where the RCMP labor negotiations, who's going to be footing that bill?
That is I believe that's a matter that's still in negotiation, which means that I can't speak to it, nor would I be privy to that information. So I'm sorry, I can't provide you an answer on that.
Okay.
Kathy?
The other thing that I've been hearing quite a bit about is the ambulance situation.
Pardon me?
The situation with the ambulances
Great
and lack
question.
thereof. I know there's probably no overnight solution, but I would hope that the government is at least going to address it or try to come up with a solution.
So the easy answer for that is yes. This is probably the number one issue that's coming into the Minister's office right now. I know that for us down here, air ambulance is a huge issue as well. And so what we're doing right now is we're looking for the Minister's prime goal in his job is to be expanding healthcare capacity. So that also means emergency medical services. So one of the most important things that's happening right now, and I think it's a real highlight, is that there is a panel that's convened right now. RJ Sigurdsson, the MLA for Highwood, as well as Tracy Allard, the MLA for Grand Prairie, are heading up this panel of people who are traveling around the province to hear directly from municipalities and people who are how they would like to be better serviced by their ambulances or by EMS, and what we could be doing better for dispatch, as well as how we could increase resources and try to make it more efficient. So We understand that we have to put more money into it. We know from the HEMS report, at least, just specifically, that was one subsection of ambulatory services, that we are that it's been chronically underlooked at for the past 10 years. So I think that it will be. It's something that our government absolutely needs to take care of, and I think it's a major difference between urban and rural Alberta as well. So for me, what I've suggested, and I've suggested this, I believe the mayor was in this meeting with me as well, was that when these delegations come around and they're looking for input, I think we all need to make sure that we're speaking on behalf of our constituents and talking about just how important it is to be kind of re-upping the ante on having more ambulance services, as well as making sure we're employing more paramedics, looking at where the gaps are and how do we fix that. So I know a dispatch is a huge issue as well, and on the air ambulance side, it's just, you know, who covers what and when. So for me, my top priorities from being elected, I think day one, my very first meeting that I ever convened was with Paul Carolyn from HALO and the Minister of Health at the time, Tyler Shandro, and other relevant ministers, as well as all Southern Alberta MLAs, to talk about how we can expand HEMS services. And so for me, it'll be a real mark of our government, how we deal with rural healthcare as a whole. And I think that this panel is a good place to start, but I wouldn't get too excited until we see some real action from them, which I really do believe that we're going to see quite soon. So I know that my colleagues RJ and Tracy have been doing the first bit of this, getting the committee set up, and they'll be taking to the roads quite quickly here to start gleaning input from people such as yourself. So I hope that people who are concerned do come out and keep these meetings well attended. As soon as I know about it, I'll make sure that my office communicates with the town as well, just to make sure that you guys are aware where those meetings are taking place and how you can be a part of it if you'd like.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Okay, well, I just want to say thank you again for having me. As you know, next week on Tuesday, we will be releasing our speech from the throne. That'll be at 3 o'clock at the legislature. The speech from the throne sets the agenda for the government for the next legislative session going forward. On Thursday, we'll be releasing a budget. So Budget 22 is supposed to be a pretty exciting one. I think as exciting as budget, as exciting as budget speeches go, we're seeing very impressive resource royalties, as well as real signs of an economic boom in our province, including record-breaking venture capital investments and major jobs coming to the province. So I hope that we can all tune in, and when I have more information on that, I'll be sure to share it with you as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michaela.
Thank you. Okay. Would somebody like to move information? Larry? All in favor? Opposed? It is carried. And second delegation is RCMP report to council. Welcome.
If you need to rise and get
There's a button there from 1 to 4.
I'll just yell.
4 is tall, 1 is short.
Your phone.
Everyone can hear me? All right.
I think they can hear you.
Okay. So I'm Constable Stewart Rankin. I'm here to give you the third quarter crime statistics report for the RCMP. So we want to just start with our community priorities. As you know, it's been COVID, so our interactions with organizations and the community members have been quite low because we are not allowed to go to schools, for example, just to drop in and things like that. So hopefully going forward, that's going to be changing, and we'll be able to start meeting again with organizations and our partners. For enhancing road safety, traffic operations, town of Redcliff, complaints were received in the fall for careless driving on Main Street in the evening hours, particularly on weekends. So patrols were increased at these times with multiple violation tickets given to drivers. Crime reduction is our third priority. So, as I said, with priority 1, the meetings with crime prevention partners and Rural Crime Watch, there have been no scheduled meetings because of COVID. but hopefully going forward, we'll be able to get some more meetings in. That being said, though, with the Alert Rural Crime Unit, we have seen a remarkable change in the amount of property crime in the area, and we'll be going into that. So for crime statistics, across the board except for one note there, we are down. That would be for persons crimes, which has a change of an increase of 118%. But that brings us back into pre-pandemic levels, so it seems to be more of a normalization of where we were at. In terms of how many resources we have, we currently have 8 positions with 8 working, with 3 on leave. 1 being parental leave and 2 being on medical leave. For the financial, I'm just a constable, and I don't understand any of it, to be completely honest with you. I wish I could answer any questions about it, but the numbers they gave you, I'm sure, are right.
You're supposed to know this before you can move up.
Ooh, that's why I'm still on the bottom.
If you pull me over for speeding, I'll say you don't understand numbers.
That's why I haven't pulled you over speeding, have I?
Yeah, thank you for that.
That's the reason, not because you were speeding. So we have the actual crime statistics on the next 3rd slide, I believe it is, which does show a change from 2020 to 2021, a decrease in most crimes with a few small exceptions, that being persons crimes like assaults and uttering threats, which have gone up, but seem to be more in line with at least 2 years ago. So for the year over year, they look bad, but it seems to be back to a normalization. When we look at property crimes, break and enters, and everything that falls under that category, we have a decrease in most in terms of 2017 and 2021. So let's go to our last 2 letters. The first one's being, second to last page, or oh, we got them at the top. The first one's about body cameras. They're now being rolled out in Grand Prairie, Parkland, St. Paul, and Gleason for their effectiveness. So right now, Redcliff RCP does not have any, but at least the RCP and K Division is now doing a rollout slowly. So we'll see how it goes in those divisions, or in those cities, and then they'll be rolled out soon thereafter. And the second letter, which is pertinent to right now, is about Coots, Alberta. Right now, the province is taking about 10% of our members and taking them to Coots. This falls under Provincial's resources, so it will not draw any extra money from municipalities. By asking for 10%, that just means 1 member, which we've filled our obligation at this point, so we have no other members going down.
We didn't get that letter.
Sorry?
It was an email to me, it just came today.
Oh.
I got the email today.
Oh, you got the email.
And I thought if it's 10%, we only have 8, you can't have anybody.
0.8 of a per person, so we
Yes.
sent the new guy.
So, very good.
So other than budgetary questions, does anybody have any questions for me?
Go ahead.
I'm just curious with the federal mandate for RCMP members to be vaccinated. Is that going to have any impact on Redcliff Detachment as far as staffing, policing with, I heard that that's starting to be enforced now.
Yeah, so it has
starting
been in
February.
effect and in force now, so we have lost 1 member in total, and that's across our total pool of municipal and provincial members.
Okay.
Staffing has assured us that spot will be filled, so we're gonna be taking him out of the pool and replacing him.
Okay.
So you have 1 person down at the border right now?
Yes.
And then that email from Mike said that would mean that he's no longer on our payroll, he switches over, right? The province picks that bill up, we don't continue to pay it, type of thing. And,
He's only down there for 5 days, and then he comes back.
Oh, that's still a week.
Yeah.
It's 2%. Just saying. Anyway, no, I think, do we know how long, like, cause when, in your stats there, it does say there's 6 working with 3 off, but we're really almost sometimes down to 5. So, do we know about how long that's gonna be before we're back up to our full 8?
Before we solve the Coots problem, I don't know how long that'll be.
Well, okay, up to 7. Don't worry about the Coots
Okay,
thing.
okay. Just when we're gonna get our numbers back in general.
Yes.
So our next paternal leave is set to return in April.
Okay.
So that'll bring us back to 1
2
number.
months, okay.
And then the other 2 members are in our command staff, so they don't affect general duty,
Okay.
just our command staff.
All right. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions of Constable Rankin?
I'm not sure if we're allowed to bring this up at a council meeting, but are we allowed to ask about like, certain areas for patrolling for excessive speed, like here in Redcliff?
You can, well, you
You can bring it to their
can
attention.
bring it to their attention if it,
Cause, one thing I personally have noticed is the street I live on. The speed of certain, like throughout the day, it's insane. People are flying, so the 700 and 600 block of 6th Street, cause it's a long stretch. There's guys that are, or people, and that one guy I know in particular, and I know who it is, but just flying, and there's lots of kids on that block. So I'm just wondering, like, about patrols, like, are you guys doing quite a few patrols during the day and in the, like, at night in certain areas?
So it's not targeted right now, just
Yeah.
because in winter time, we don't have specific, like if it was summertime, we'd be closer to the skate park and things
Yeah.
like that, where people tend to be. But given the amount of streets in Redcliff, there's not a specific. But anytime if you have any issues, we can always increase in certain areas to see if it'll decrease. Come summer too, we can put up our giant solar radar detector, and that usually
Oh, yeah. I
reminds
forgot about
people
that.
to slow down.
That seems to help
What-
a lot.
Yeah,
actually.
it does, it really does, so we can get that rolling once we get out of this frozen tundra.
And I did hear from, another resident about Main Street as well.
Okay.
Yeah, with the 400 blocks, so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, people are just flying, so, and I see that you guys did, an operation there anyway, so to ticket some people, so.
Yeah.
And it seemed like you guys got a few, so that's good.
any other questions?
I have to say it, let me guess, it was junior man proof?
No, I'm the senior man, actually.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm an acting corporal.
No
Okay.
comment.
Okay, well, if nobody has any more questions, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Would somebody like to move for information? James? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, moving on to minutes. We have council minutes for January 24th, 2022 for adoption. Chris? Any questions or concerns out of those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And we move on to section 4, bylaws. We have bylaw 1938/2022 being the fees, rates, and charges bylaw. It's here for first reading.
Let's put on the table for first reading.
Kathy? All right. Does anybody have questions or concerns?
I have one.
Okay.
This is the one I'm thinking, just let me find it.
Did you put a big felt marker through it?
No, it's got a little circle in there, yeah, I made it. For the arena for ice, I always was under the impression that it costs us more to operate the arena over the weekends because of weekend premium for the people that work there. So we should be charging more for the ice on weekends than we do during the week?
But what if it's a minor hockey tournament, that goes all weekend?
Well,
They get a special rate already, right?
yeah, but then they can pay a little bit extra if they're having a tournament. They're making money on the tournament.
I had thought it was just a scheduling thing, that if you worked on a Saturday, you got a Monday off, or whatever. I don't know how the town staff schedules for the arena.
Phyllis has something to say.
Well, I'm just looking to see if, because we do have it. No, okay.
Are you looking
Go
for-
ahead, Phyllis.
The, we checked with the guys earlier and they do get, premium time after 6 PM
So every day
every day.
they get premium.
Mhm.
So we charge, through the chair, so we charge more during premium time, which is after 6 and weekends.
Right.
Which is the prime time, right?
Yeah, which is prime time rate.
So we already do.
So we do charge extra.
Page you on there, Jim?
Well, the page that it's on would be page 8 of 33 or 30 of the package. That's where the arena rates are
Yeah.
that I can see.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
a-
8 of 33.
Perfect.
Yeah, because there's a new,
It's on the screen in front
yeah,
of you.
new little schedule.
And it's just as good, it's, the right-hand side is wiped off. Technology is horrible, isn't it?
Let's stay on topic here, please.
Well, okay. What are people's thoughts on that?
I think we already are we
Yeah.
not?
I think
And we're
it's,
actually covering it earlier.
We
It's
charge
6
an
PM.
extra $65 an hour for weekends and evenings.
For evenings?
75.
yeah. So I
Unless I'm
think
reading
it's,
wrong.
Yeah.
I think it's
Well,
covered off.
and weekends, because prime time is defined as Monday to Friday, 4 to 10, and Saturday to Sunday, 8 AM to 10 PM.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so the new bylaws already got it covered off.
And Phyllis, do we pay that premium time just after 6 PM on weekends, or weekends are premium time as well?
Just in, after 6 PM.
Just after 6 PM? Well,
Yeah.
I'm fine with this thing. We're making up for some losses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
We'll
I guess
never
we
make
got
up
it
enough
covered.
losses, but
Yeah.
Yeah, and, okay. And we're going at $5 and $10 an hour, depending on whether you're youth or adult. That's the proposed, this is what we talked about there,
Last meeting.
or 2 meetings ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none? All in favor of first reading? Opposed? That is carried. So Shannon, do you wish this to go all 3, or just one for now, and then you guys wanna review it?
Yes,
Just the one?
just the one, and then we
Okay.
can do an additional review.
Okay. So, it's in here as possibly all 3, but then she's had a change of heart.
I see there's a
And on
formatting thing
Valentine's Day,
happening.
that's allowed. What?
I see that there's a formatting thing happening here.
Again?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Volunteer recognition event. Request for decision on the volunteer recognition event. I think there was 4 options, right?
I'll put option number 1 on the table.
Carla's not here to defend this, hey? Is this her idea?
Yes, but her director
Carla's
is
boss
happy
is
to
here
speak to
defend
it,
Carla.
yes.
Okay.
I like the idea of the mayor speaking about volunteerism in our community.
Good God. Well, after reading through that 275 pages of record keeping,
Yeah.
obviously I don't want to ever write a speech, cause then it has to be kept around. Forever. Okay. So that's motion for number one,
Yeah.
planting trees and doing it outside and speaking in the park.
Mhm.
Well, it sounds like they wanna try to plant trees around the skate park, right? That's what I kinda read in there.
That's correct.
How big are these trees going to be?
Yeah, it's gonna be.
All those little details have not been decided on yet.
Oh.
Just slightly higher than grass.
Okay.
There is no grass, or not much.
No, it's solid now.
Is
it?
Yeah, it got solid. Okay. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. All right, correspondence, Palliser Airshed Authority. Larry, for information? Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. In the town of Gibbons, Bill 21, the Provincial Administrative Penalties Act.
Move that for information.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or concerns about that? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And a letter from Glen Motz asking if we have any problems to write them,
We just want more money.
because this is here for consideration, not just information.
Right, yeah, I
But it
noticed
could be
that.
just information too.
I'll move for information.
Okay, Jim? Info. All right, any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And then the National Police Federation, the Government of Alberta Consultations on the Alberta Provincial Police
For
Service.
information.
Kathy? Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And Director of Emergency Management, letter of support. So this is the letter back to Merrick from Phyllis. Somebody wanna move it for information? Larry? Questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Moving to other. Bylaw 1919, 2021. Why is it 2021? This is the one we did in February 22nd, and is being redone to this one? Is that what this means?
This bylaw was passed in 2021,
Yeah, February 22nd.
yes, and we have to bring the corporate record structure back to council every year. Not the bylaw, just the corporate record structure. So you guys can know. if
So
we-
this is the same as last year, cause I didn't open it up to see if it was, okay.
Yes,
Good gosh, okay.
but the bylaw says, because in the bylaw, it allows me to make minor changes.
Did
to
you?
the- No, to the corporate record structure.
Okay.
But in order for council to know, what it does say, we have to produce it annually.
Okay,
So we produced it.
okay,
Option one,
all right,
receive as information.
okay. Kathy? So then the number doesn't even change, it stays the same, okay.
Been there, done that kind
All right. Any questions or concerns about any of this?
I read
Phyllis?
about 2/3 of it yesterday.
Way down in, I don't know how many
Stuff.
pages it is, but when it starts to talk about productions, I think, if we make videos or do anything like that, there's about 3 different levels of productions. And try as I might to differentiate between them, I couldn't. And yet one is kept for 2 years and one is kept for 5 years, and I'm going, what happens if I actually worked here? I'd be confused.
That's why we have Bonnie.
I think Bonnie will get confused. And do you tag information so it automatically pops up when it times out?
Yes.
So what happens when, because census, I know we don't do it, but we have to keep those records for 100 years.
Yes.
Do you know how many software changes there'll be? Computers won't even talk to each other by then. So how would you keep that time ticking? Because none of us are gonna remember that when it comes due.
Probably remembering.
I don't think any of us will be around in 100 years.
But
See?
you just keep
I'm
bringing
right.
it forward as you upgrade your software.
Oh, man. I just, like, stuff like that. I can understand the permanent stuff, because then you just file it.
It's permanent.
But when you gotta tag something for 100 years from now, that's good.
Put it in a time capsule and bury it.
And dig it up in 100 years. At least then you'd know.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
They
somebody
do say-
remembered to dig it up.
The best medium is still paper.
Uh-huh. I do believe it works. Okay, well, Kathy moved for information. Does anybody else have any questions? It's just me? Okay. All in favor then? Opposed? Carried. 2022 event and programming update for information.
Just for information.
Chris did.
Did I cut somebody off?
Oh,
Sorry, James.
that's all right.
Okay. Any questions or concerns?
I guess I just had one, just for my clarification.
Okay.
So, the difference in color is just different organizations or divisions that are planning these things, or paying for these things, or I wasn't sure what that.
Yep, they said that green is some of it is town staff and some of it is contracted, right?
The items highlighted in green are facilitated by contractors.
Yeah.
Oh,
So like Painter Girl or somebody comes in and does a little thing, or, yeah, this is the stuff that the recreation programming, we used to go on all the time, but with COVID, most of them got canceled, so, yeah. So that's what those colors mean. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, opposed, that is carried. Municipal manager report to council for information.
I'll move that.
James, any questions or concerns? Seeing none, oh,
Sorry. I
Nope.
wasn't sure if it was in this or if it was somewhere else. Oh, it wasn't in this.
gotta put big circles on it.
Yeah, I think it was actually back up at the top. I had a question.
Okay. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? That was carried. Landfill graphs for information, all 1 month. Larry? Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Council important meetings and events. Matt? Any new ones? Throne speech. Anything further? Nope. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Do we need a recess? We can take a 5-minute recess.
Phil, it's for the 22nd. Do you want to meet here and go together?